Let's start the podcast. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome to Off the Cliff Sports, episode 3. And boy, do we got a show today. You're going to hear a lot about controversy sales. NFL, NFL, NFL. When are you going to get it right? We're going to talk a lot about the AFC and the NFC championship game. The Patriots are going to their third straight Super Bowl. The LA Rams are going back to the Super Bowl for the first time since 2001. How they got there? Woo! If you're like me, you're going to be like, I can't believe that happened. We all saw it. What do you think about it? I'm your host, Cliff Jacks. Remember, comments. You can reach us at OfftheCliff-Sports at gmail.com. You can reach us on Twitter at Cliff_Sports. You can reach us on Instagram, OfftheCliff_Sports. And of course, you can reach us on Podbean at OfftheCliff-Sports.podbean.com. We need to hear from you so we can respond just like an everyday Joe, or in my case, an everyday Cliff. So sit back, put your ears on, listen, and we're going to talk about controversy sales. Let's get into it. We're back here on Off the Cliff Sports. I'm your host, Cliff Jacks. And later in the show, we're going to get to officiating, overtime rules, TV ratings, and we're going to talk a little bit about NFL realignments. Maybe. You never know. But first, we're going to recap what went on last week. And in the AFC, we had the New England Patriots go to Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri, and defeat the Kansas City Chiefs 37-31 in overtime. We also had the New Orleans Saints at home in the Superdome lose to the LA Rams 26-23 in overtime. So some big things to talk about. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about James freaking Harden and the NBA season he's having. Crazy. First thing up today, though, let's get into the AFC title game a little bit here. The Chiefs played great all year long. Firepower offense. Defense was shaky. We all knew the defense was shaky coming in. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, that defense turned out to be the thing that cost the Chiefs a trip to the Super Bowl. Game started out very slow for the Chiefs. The Chiefs' first quarter, they had 8 plays. They only ran 8 plays in the 15-minute first quarter. The Patriots dominated the actual first quarter and the second quarter for the most part. The Patriots went out to a 14-0 lead at halftime, which was mind-blowing in itself. But because we all know the firepower that the Chiefs have on offense, we knew, okay, 14-point lead. The weather isn't bad as everybody made it seem like it was going to be. We all knew the Chiefs could come back from that because they did it when the two teams played earlier in the year. They were down 24-9 at halftime. So things played out like everybody thought it would. The Chiefs finally got their offense in rhythm, and they start playing Kansas City football. But the defensive side of the ball still was their Achilles heel. Tom Brady showed us why he is one of the greatest of all time. And his play in the game pretty much was the difference. How he was able to control the line of scrimmage at that quarterback position. If he needed to pass, if he needed to check down into the run, he was pretty much making a play and determining what to do based on what he saw on the other side of the line of scrimmage. He outplayed the defensive coordinator who didn't even play for the Chiefs. Now, I do have a Kansas City Chiefs fan who actually had some comments. He sent me his comments, and so I'm going to read them to you so you guys can hear what this gentleman had to say about what he thought about the game. The first thing he said was, I don't blame the referees. That's a big statement. He's a Kansas City Chiefs fan, and he did say, I don't blame the referees. He pretty much stated, we started out too slow to begin the game. Then that crucial play where D Ford was offsides when we thought the Chiefs had got the game-clinching interception to take them to the Super Bowl. So he pretty much believed his team was outcoached by Bill Belichick and his staff. And this is coming from Mr. Jones, a Kansas City Chief fan and a native of Kansas City. Thank you, Mr. Jones, for your comments. Everybody else, please be sure to bring your comments. Send in your comments. We can talk about them. Sometimes they'll get talked about on air. Sometimes we'll use them as our topics of discussion. So this is an everyday podcast for the everyday Joe or the everyday Cliff. And I want you guys to be a part of my world. So the game went back and forth once you got to the fourth quarter. The Chiefs scored 24 points in the fourth quarter in 15 minutes of play. They scored 24 points and looks like they were going to win the game. But good old Tom Brady, he was able to manage 14 points for his team. Tom Brady scored with less than a minute to go in the game, so it was looking like this game is over. We're going to the Super Bowl. But that young stud on the other side, Patrick Mahomes, was able to use that fire rifle of an arm he has to get his team down the field in order to score a game-time field goal and send this to overtime. There was a lot of stuff happening in between those two time frames as far as called penalties, not called penalties. The officiating definitely played a part in the game. Now, whether or not the officiating made the outcome what it was, we can't say, but the officiating was not grade A. It looks like it was more of junior high football officiating. No offense to the junior high officials out there either. I'm not trying to blast you guys, but these guys are at the professional level, so they are expected to perform at the highest level, since the NFL is our highest level of football. Anyway, we get to overtime, and based on the coin toss, unfortunately, Tom Brady won the coin toss. And we know, I don't know anybody who's going to bet against Brady going down and scoring in overtime. We've seen it happen over and over again. So it really was a downer, the fact that we didn't see the young stud on the other side get to bring his offense out there and see what he can do. But we're going to talk about that later on in the show, though. We're going to talk a little bit about the overtime rules and is there a need for change or is there not? On the other side of the spectrum, down in New Orleans, Louisiana, we had the NFC title game. The home team, of course, was favored. Sean Payton and Drew Brees together has never lost a playoff game at home. It's a good sign for the Saints. The Saints had beat the Rams early in the year. Another good sign for the Saints. The Saints offense seemed to be getting back into form a little bit after a couple of weeks during the end of the regular season where they played very stagnant, and really the defense was the difference in them winning and losing some of those games. Lo and behold, the Los Angeles Rams win the game 26-23 in the Superdome. And this is after New Orleans came out to a 13-0 lead in the first quarter, which that 13 probably should have been 20, 21 points. And We haven't been able to talk a lot about the fact that they missed opportunities because of the controversy that sells, but there was missed opportunities where the Saints should have been up by more points, and that definitely could have played a difference in the outcome of this game. Second quarter, the Rams finally settled in. The Rams defense, who at the beginning of the year everybody knew this Rams defense should have been a force to be reckoned with. You got the best football player in the game, Aaron Donald. You have Ndamukong Suh right beside him on the defensive line. Then you have two cornerbacks, Aqib Talib, stud who won a Super Bowl with the Broncos, and you have Marcus Peters, who's a very aggressive, high energy type player. So you had the defensive firepower that could have dominated. They hadn't necessarily dominated the league, but when it was time for them to come to play, they came to play. A lot that we didn't talk about is at halftime, the Rams made this a 3-point game. The Saints didn't score in the second quarter. And for the most part, you really can say the second half in general was a back and forth dogfight. It wasn't this high power explosion of points that people thought, which I did pick the Saints to win on the previous podcast, but I also did pick it to be a low scoring game. So I was half right, half wrong. Drew Brees did not play a good game. I want to say that for a fact. There was a lot of controversy in this game, and the outcome was decided by the officiating, which is a bad thing. But if we start narrowing down to the box score and look at some of the box scores, the person that I personally thought was going to have a monster game, Michael Thomas, you can't guard me, is his Twitter hashtag. He only had 4 receptions for 36 yards in the game. Your number one receiver, 4 receptions, 36 yards. So I think Mr. Aqib Talib made a difference in this game. He made a big difference in this game. Drew Brees, on the other hand, Drew Brees only threw the ball for 249 yards. So it wasn't a real big Drew Brees game. He got sacked a couple times, and those sacks he took were in not good situations. Could have put points on the board possibly if he hadn't took those sacks. And he did throw the interception in overtime, which for the most part ended the Saints season, you could say. I mean, the Rams did have to go down the field to get the field goal, but that interception was inopportune. And if you watch the play over and over, instead of Drew Brees taking something that was there on that play, a shorter route, he was trying to get the deep ball, and that cost him. The Rams defensive line was able to get to him to cause him to make a terrible pass. So the officiating in the fourth quarter, the Saints driving for the win, the worst non-call I've ever seen in football myself. The Saints wide receiver who came out the backfield on a wheel route was clobbered by the defender. The wide receiver was looking back at the quarterback for the ball. The cornerback or defensive back, his head was straight towards the receiver looking out of bounds, in which he actually hit him in the helmet and pass interference, which the NFL has came back and say they could have called either or, but they didn't. All the officials on the field saw that was a pass interference. So even if the guy closest to the ball, the line judge, even if he was the closest and didn't make the call, the back judge could have called that same penalty. I've seen a number of games where officials that are not right by the play throw their flag across there and say, hey, I saw that penalty. And that penalty, if it was called, it was the ball game. It would have been first and goal for the Saints, less than a minute and 40 seconds. And the Rams only had one timeout, if I remember correctly. So the clock was going to run down, and once they kicked the field goal, or maybe actually ran in for a touchdown, the Rams would have only had 15 seconds at the most. Very big call. And those officials, I'm scared for them because they probably can't ever go back to New Orleans. Vacation, nothing. They shouldn't even schedule to officiate another game in New Orleans if it was me. But that game was definitely the Saints, and everybody saw the Saints was on their way to the Super Bowl until that call happened. Now, a lot of people say that was just one call of many. There was a non-face mask call on Jared Goff. Once you go back and watch that play, that was a blatant call that was missed also. So you could look at it that way also. I know New Orleans Saints fans are going to say they were robbed, but at the end of the day, the officiating in the game in general was atrocious. Both sides. Both sides had missed call, blown calls, calls that probably shouldn't have been made. So if you call that a wash, then you really got to look down at the quarterback play. Jared Goff throws for 297, one touchdown, one interception, a QBR rating of 75. Drew Brees, 249, two touchdowns, one interception, but his QBR rating was a 60. So if you look at that quarterback play, New Orleans Saints with their young quarterback actually performed way better. Neither team ran the ball well. The Rams ran the ball a little better than the Saints, but neither one of them could bank on the running game. So that was a wash. But the play that changed the momentum, which is so ironic, the Rams ran a fake punt that was successful. The same thing the Saints did 2 weeks ago against Philadelphia that changed the momentum of that game. It's ironic how these things happen in the NFL. Two games, officiating in both games was terrible, and it made a difference in the outcome, if you ask me, on who was in the Super Bowl. We have the Patriots and the Rams, but in all honesty, it should have been the Chiefs and the Saints. The NFL is cool with what they have. Why they're cool with what they have, I'm going to tell you later in the show my opinion why the NFL is okay with the Patriots and the Rams. We'll be back in a few, and we're going to talk a little bit about James freaking Harden. Cliff Jacks back with you on Off the Cliff Sports. The NBA is having a pretty exciting season. The Golden State Warriors has gotten DeMarcus Cousins back from injury, and they pretty much have solidified themselves as the soon-to-be world champions again. On an individual level, though, James Harden is putting together a season like no other. He's scored 30-plus points in 21 straight games to date. Unbelievable. The only person to have longer streaks is Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain. He's done it 3 times more than 21 straight games. Harden put up 61 points in Madison Square Garden the other night, which was absolutely astonishing. Now, he was playing the Knicks, who the Knicks are in the Zion Williams sweepstakes right now, competing to see if they can get one of the top 2 college players, Zion Williams or R.J. Barrett, to help bolster their team and their ticket sales. But James Harden has recorded games of 57, 58, and 61 points this year. For the month of January, Harden is averaging 45 points per game for the month. That's unheard of. Right now, his team is without Chris Paul. He's without his starting center. And he is just taking it on his own to be a one-man game, which they're winning games and losing games, so they're still up and down. But This individual performance is one of the best in my day and time that I've seen. He's phenomenally shooting the ball well. Now, he is shooting a lot of three-pointers right now for the month of January. I think he's averaging 13 threes a game, which is a lot. But that's what the Houston Rockets do. They shoot a lot of threes. They had a game where they shot or attempted 73 pointers. So, hey, if it's working for them, that's what they're going to do. But James Harden is having an unbelievable year, and I'm amazed at what I see out of Harden right now. This is unbelievable. Well, on to another topic. It's time for that wonderful segment that we call Top of the Cliff. Today, we're going to invite a group of people to the top of the cliff. None other than the NFL officials. We had 2 championship games this weekend, and the officiating in both games by the refs was horrible. Flat out horrible in both games, which, how can you have 2 games of this magnitude and both of them is marred by the officiating? So I want to take the time to invite the referees from the AFC Championship game and the NFC Championship game to the top of the cliff and join me, because you did a terrible job and you had fans looking at something instead of enjoying the entertainment of football. Talk more about the officiating in the football game. It's kind of like you wanted to take center stage instead of the players. So this week, the referees will join me on the top of the cliff. Off the Cliff Sports. Let's get right into it since we're talking about officiating. What is it that the NFL can't get correct? Is it the fact they don't want to have full-time referees and the refs are all part-time? They do their normal job, then come football season, they come and become referees. Is it that the NFL does not want to spend the money to add a couple additional referees to the field? I mean, that's definitely got to be a possibility. Or do we not want to spend the money to have the cameras that we have during the playoff games available all year round? During the playoff games, they add additional camera angles that we don't have during the regular season. It's technology. It's there. Why does this billion-dollar industry not want to use that technology? These officials have been officiating all year long. The best of the best are supposed to be the ones that get the playoff games. Because if this is our best, we have a big, big problem, because either they're not calling the game as they should, or they're given a directive to call the game a certain way. I mean, people wants to know, you can't have a flag on one quarterback, talking about the Patriots and the Chiefs game. You get a flag call for roughing the passer on Tom Brady, where the defender didn't even touch Brady. But in that same game, the defender clobbered Patrick Mahomes across the face and no flag was thrown. The same person that threw the first flag, the flag on one quarterback, he's the same official that should have threw the flag in the other incident, and he's in the same position. It's not like he was in different position. Both times you're pretty much behind the quarterback. So how did you assume one of them was a foul and the other wasn't? I tell you, even my father, he said I definitely had to talk about officiating because he couldn't believe what he saw in these games. He's a football fan as well, and he just was astonished at how blatant penalties weren't called, or how you may get a call because of the name of one person and they get the call, but everyone else doesn't. To me, myself, I'm just really wondering what the NFL needs to do to get themselves in a position where the fans trust the NFL. Because me personally, I've told friends here and there, I wonder how real are these games. The players may be out there giving it their all, 110%, 120%, but does that mean that the NFL ownership is sending the directive to their officials that, hey, we want this game to look this way, or hey, we want this game to look that way? There's always a human element to it. And I know officials could get caught up in the moment, caught up watching the game, but the pass interference call that wasn't called for the Saints, that flag could have got thrown late. I know we all have seen a number of times where the official is slow to throw the flag, and in that situation, it was so blatant. One of his peers could have threw the flag. It was like, oh, maybe he didn't see it by accident, or someone could have covered for the two officials that was near the play. That play destroyed one team's season and uplifted another. And I know the Los Angeles Rams say, hey, we won that game. That one play didn't decide that game. And that's a true statement because the Saints did get the ball first in overtime, and their quarterback, a Hall of Famer, did not perform the way another Hall of Famer in the other game, Tom Brady, performed. If Drew Brees had did what Brady did, drove his team down, scored a touchdown, game over, we wouldn't have to worry about that horrible play that the officials did not call. So you have to look at it on both sides. I mean, the Rams have some arguments of some bad officiating that went against them, as well as the Saints. The fact that the play with the Saints was just so egregious, it was so wide open. It was only two players around, so it wasn't a crowd of players. It was two players and officials that could have saw from different angles. That's what made that play stand out more than any of the other plays. Because when you go back and watch the film again, yeah, there was penalties on both teams. Just like in the Patriots and the Chiefs game, there was penalties called and penalties not called. The offsides call against D Ford, where the Chiefs thought they had a game Super Bowl clinching interception. There's been times where the official would either say, hey, you're across the line, or hey, I'm going to let that one go because it wasn't just like he was way across the line. So the NFL has to do a better job. They're going to either have to go full-time officials, they're going to have to either add officials to the field, or an ideal I was thinking about, coaches have 2 challenges. Why don't we up the challenges, just like timeouts, to 3 challenges per coach? You have 3 challenges. You can challenge plays. You can challenge penalties that you think should have been called, or a penalty that was called that you do not think should be called. I mean, adding another challenge to what we already have, that's not going to hurt, or it's not going to add too much time to the game that we don't already have. And plus, if it's a chance for them to get it right, why not help the officials get it right? And also in the NFL's favor, if you add a challenge where the coach has to make that challenge, make that call, you take the pressure off your officials, because then it is up to the coach to make that call. If the coaches have ran out of challenges, that's their fault, not your officials' fault. So we got to do some, or we're going to have to start doing like college. Anytime the people in the booth see a play that needs to be reviewed, they need to buzz the head referee and say, hey, let's review that play. You can always go that route. Now, the college game is probably 30 minutes to an hour longer than the pro game. I love college football. It's so exciting. Momentum changes multiple times. And I'm willing to watch a college game for that length of time compared to an NFL game. If the NFL game starts dragging on longer and longer, chances are the fans may decide to turn. NFL, fix your officiating issues. You definitely can lose fans if you don't. That's just coming from an everyday Cliff. But hey, who am I? What do I know? What do you guys think? Email me, tweet me, send me a message on Podbean. I need to know what you think about this. We're going to get into some overtime rules when we come back. I had a caller who wanted to discuss his ideas for overtime, and I'm going to let you guys hear that call or hear that conversation when I come back. Off the Cliff Sports, we're in here. So the last football game Sunday night, the Patriots and the Chiefs, which ended in a 37-31 Patriots win, which helped them advance to their third straight Super Bowl as the AFC representatives. The Patriots went down and was able to get a go-ahead touchdown late in the game. They left enough time, or they left too much time, where Patrick Mahomes was able to make some unbelievable plays to get the Chiefs in position to kick a game-tying field goal, which sent the game into overtime. Here comes some of the controversy of that game. You get to the coin toss, which the Patriots win, and you put one of the greatest of all time, Tom Brady, on the field against a defense that he pretty much has had. He was a move ahead of the defense the whole game for the most part. Brady drives his team down the field with very little resistance, scores a touchdown, wins the game, gets the Patriots to the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes, most likely the NFL MVP this year, didn't get to touch the field. He didn't get to touch the ball. He only was able to stand on the sideline and watch one of the greatest do what he do. There seems like a problem, because if this is entertainment and one of the best players in the NFL right now, Mr. Mahomes, never got to touch the ball, never got to showcase the firepower that he and the Kansas City Chiefs possess. So, the overtime rules have been adjusted a little bit in the NFL, where if the first team kicks a field goal, the other team gets a chance. But if that first team has a good drive, they go down the field and put 7 points or 6 points on the board, the game is over. It seems to be a little unfair because a coin toss determines all this. Now, the college rules have been talked about, which, again, I like college football. So I love the fact that both teams get a chance. If both teams score, let's do it again. Both teams score again, let's tweak it a little bit where you don't kick field goals. You have to go for 2. So the college rules have an issue, or they have a little parts of it that I like. Now, they did have a college game this year that actually went 7 overtimes. I've seen a few of those in my day. The Arkansas Razorbacks was in one that we won 7 overtimes. So, hey, woo, pig, suey. We need to think about how can we get this NFL game to be quality where it's even, but us as fans get to see the excitement that we're looking for, because everyone wanted to see Patrick Mahomes get that ball and see, can he go down and score just like Tom Brady did? That was the exciting part. I'm going to let you listen to a little piece of a conversation that I had with A-Train, this young gentleman out of North Texas, and let's listen to his idea on how we should change this overtime rule. Thank you for joining me back here on Off the Cliff Sports. I got a call in from a young man named A-Train. He's actually an alumni of North Texas University, and he played football there. A-Train has an idea about this overtime fiasco that everybody's been talking about, so we're going to talk to him about it. A-Train, what you got to say?
This is what we can do for overtime. We can just do away with the touchdown and it's over. Have a running clock for 15 minutes. Each time someone scores or they do not get a first down, the other team gets the ball. So there's no punts, there's no kickoffs. You get the ball on your 25, just like a kickoff. You get your ball on 25. You have to drive the length of the field. You score. This clock is running. It's 15 minutes. At the end of those 15 minutes, whoever has the most points wins the game.
So what do you say about the people that say you're going to take special teams out of play if there's no punts? You got to go for it on fourth down.
I say this simplifies the overtime to where you're going to score points. The only special teams involved are field goals. You can kick a field goal if you want to, but there is no need for punt because there's no need for field position if both teams are going to get the ball on their 25. So you take all that out of play. All the time is strictly used for trying to score. So if your defense can hold up and you can come out with some 3 points and hold them to nothing, that's great. But you have those 15 minutes to score. So if the team who's driving first scores a touchdown and the game's not over, you can respond to that. So.
All right, thank you for your information, A-Train. We're definitely going to reach back out to you during other episodes. Go ahead. Is it too early for me to get your pick for the big game?
Big game. I have the Patriots winning this. It is going to be a close game, I believe. So, let's say, 21-23. But Tom Brady's going to come down like he normally does, ice cold face, 2 minutes under left, and make something happen. So, it's gonna be good, I believe. But Brady pulls out those games.
All right, so it sounds like A-Train is going with Brady to win it all. I'm going to make my pick on the next episode of Off the Cliff Sports when it's a little closer to the Super Bowl. I'll let y'all know what I think then. We'll be back after these quick commercial breaks. Tweet me at Cliff_sports. Email me at OfftheCliff-Sports@gmail.com. Cliff Jacks here. So, what do you guys think if I told you the NFL was just fine with the events of Sunday? The owners probably, other than the two losing owners of the game, they all probably said, great, this is working in our favor. That's what I'm thinking. And the reason I'm thinking this is because TV ratings. TV ratings equal money. Money makes the owners happy. There's only one Super Bowl winner every year, but TV rating and the shares that the owners get for making money off the games is lucrative to those owners, especially those owners that don't have a chance in winning. Oakland Raiders, Arizona Cardinals, teams of that neighbor. I can even throw my Denver Broncos in there. I mean, we didn't have a shot this year. But so ratings for teams like that are very lucrative because there's market shares involved in the NFL. It's not just the teams that are in the games, it's all the teams. The NFL, there's no way that you can tell me that the NFL did not rather see the Los Angeles Rams and the New England Patriots over the Kansas City Chiefs and the New Orleans Saints. Let's just think about it. Boston, Massachusetts, East Coast, close to New York, close to Philadelphia. Although New Yorkers don't really like Boston people, but when it comes to television and market shares, there's a common denominator there. Then you take a look at Los Angeles, California. California is a very big state. A very big state, lots of people, lots of televisions, lots of rating and market shares. Then you look on the other hand, you have Kansas City, Missouri. Little Midwestern city. Got a few million people, but not as big as Boston, not as big as Los Angeles. Then you go down to the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans has a great fan base, and they have fans that are very passionate, very caring, But let's think about it. When we're talking about the big game, it's not your everyday fan. It's not your everyday Joe or your everyday Cliff. Super Bowls are all about sponsorships and money. The majority of the tickets for the Super Bowl is given out to sponsorship. So those passionate New Orleans Saints fans or those Kansas City fans, they're most likely are not the ones that's going to the Super Bowl game. Now, they may go to the city that the Super Bowl is hosted in and party and do all those good things, but very few everyday Joes get tickets to the Super Bowl. So, any of you out there that didn't know that, they only give out maybe 10% of the tickets for sale to your normal people. The other tickets are given to sponsors, and sponsors somehow divvy those tickets out to their workers. They may do raffles and things of that nature to get rid of those tickets. So I very honestly believe that because Los Angeles and New England is in the Super Bowl, I feel the NFL is very happy with those two teams because of the market that those teams are in compared to the little bitty markets of New Orleans and the little market of Kansas. But who am I? I'm just an everyday Cliff Jacks, that is. So, what do you think about that? Do you think I'm psychotic? Do you think I'm losing my mind? Or do you think I have some validity in what I'm saying? Just think about it. Think about TV and ratings. Just FYI on that point, ratings for these two playoff games were higher than the ratings of the last 2 years in the playoffs. So that tells you something right there. People were watching. Another thing that's came up of late, and something that I've been thinking about, is it about time that the NFL decided to get rid of the divisions, the NFC East, the NFC West, the AFC North? Isn't it about time for us to break that up? Big reason to me why the the Los Angeles Chargers had the second best record in the NFL. But the team with the best record was the Kansas City Chiefs. So that factor denied the Rams from one having a first round bye in the playoffs because of their record, and two, the divisional game they end up playing, they had to go to Foxborough and play the Patriots. Where if they had the since they had the better record, if we didn't have this division stuff and we only had conference, it broken down to AFC conference, NFC conference. Your top two seeds would have been the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Chargers. That could have made a major difference in the playoffs. Just think about New England having to play the wild card round against Baltimore, a tough team like that. And even if they won that game, then they had to go to sunny San Diego or sunny Los Angeles. I'm going to get that right sooner or later. It's just odd saying Los Angeles Chargers. I'm sorry, folks. That difference in games could mean a lot. I'm just kind of sick of the old divisional thing. I would prefer it just be two conferences. The best two teams in the conference get the first round bye. Then the next four winning records, that's your other playoffs team. Instead of we got division winners, they get to host playoff games because they won their division. And if you have a way better record, just tough luck. You just got to go on the road and win on the road. Winning on the road in the NFL is pretty hard. So that's one thing I was amazed that you had the Rams and the Patriots both go on the road and win. I wouldn't have picked that out of anything. I think the NFL really needs to look at this divisional thing and this realignment. I also think the same thing about the NBA, which the NBA has tweaked their rules some, but there's always more that you can do. Controversy sales. Let's move over to our quick takes for the day. Talking about controversy, Barry Bonds, the best baseball player of all times, did not get voted into the Hall of Fame for the 7th straight year. You get 10 opportunities to get voted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, and 7 years up, he has struck out all 7 times, which is ironic because Barry Bonds hardly ever struck out. The best baseball player of all time was accused of using performance-enhancing drugs, but he never was found guilty. The irony is that the Hall of Fame has a number of players that have been linked to performance-enhancing drugs and steroids that they put in the Hall of Fame. You have so many players in the Hall of Fame that could not shine Barry Bonds' shoes. It's a travesty. How did this man, as great as he is, not get in the Hall of Fame, or has not gotten into the Hall of Fame? It's a sad world out there. Sad world. Other quick takes for you. Major League Baseball spring training camp normally starts in February, so it's almost baseball time again. It just ended in October, but it's time to start baseball again. NFL notes for you. Concussions were down 23% compared to last year. That's a big thing for the NFL because concussions and all the whirlwind circling around concussions has been very important. And you've seen the decline in number of kids playing football at the youth level, and that's kind of trickled down to the professional level where players have decided, hey, my life is a little more important. Something's wrong. I need to let this go. Concussions are down. We still need to work more and more on our equipment because we definitely got to get to a point where you still get the excitement of the game, but you don't take away the game where it's down to two-hand touch. No one is going to buy two-hand touch football. Over the last 16 years, there's only been 4 quarterbacks in the AFC to go to the Super Bowl. 4. In 16 years, only 4 quarterbacks. Mind-boggling. I'm pretty sure you can guess a few of those quarterbacks, but if you can't, Tom Brady, of course, is on the list because he's went, I can't even count how many times. You also have Big Ben, who's went to 3 Super Bowls on the list. You have Peyton Manning, who has went to 3 Super Bowls with different teams on the list. And you have one outlier, Joe Flacco, which some people call him Joe Fluco, is the other quarterback. He has 1 Super Bowl trip in there, which Ray Lewis and the Ravens defense won the Super Bowl. Won or was giving the Super Bowl, depending on who you were a fan of during that time. That's astonishing. In 16 years, only 4 people have led teams to the Super Bowl from the AFC. Really astonishing. Serena Williams got beat in the Australian Open in the quarterfinals the other night. It was sad. Serena had 4 chances to win the match, and she failed. And that's stunning to a lot of people. Apparently she twisted an ankle, so there was an injury, but Serena is class. She did not use that ankle injury as an excuse. She congratulated her competitor with class, dignity, and she's going to move on. The fact that she knows she has that little baby girl at home, that probably brightens her day up anytime she loses a tennis match because she knows she's going home to a smiling face who probably doesn't care if she plays tennis or not. That's good for Serena. The U.S. women had another young lady who was making a trip to the semis. I don't know if she won or not. I may be able to update you guys on that on the next podcast. But U.S. women are dominating tennis unlike the men. I need the U.S. men to stand up and start getting in there and winning because at the end of the day, it's USA over everybody else. I'm from the USA, so sorry anybody that's listening outside of the U.S. I apologize. I know you go for your homeland. I do the same thing with mine. The NBA All-Star captains have been selected. LeBron James is the captain of the Western squad. Giannis Antetokounmpo will be the captain of the East squad, and they will be on a televised event where they will pick their starters for their team. That's going to be interesting to see who picks who for the NBA All-Star Game. This new format is a lot better than the old washed-up format that they had previously. I want to thank you all again for listening to Off the Cliff Sports. Please go to offthecliffsports.podbean.com. Like the podcast, leave comments, let me know what you feel out there. I really need you guys to do that. Thank you for listening in. Our quote today is going to come from Art Rooney. The quote is, "The biggest thrill wasn't in winning on Sunday, but in meeting the payroll on Monday." That sounds just like controversy sells. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day, evening. Thank you for listening in to Off the Cliff Sports. Talk to you next week.